let's get right now to my political experts who are with me right now. I've got Republican strategist, MSNBC political analyst Joe Watkins here in studio, and in Washington, Democratic strategist Peter Fenn, who I'm going to call out right now because I've not seen you in so long. For all I knew, you were in that crowd down there. Like, Peter Fenn, where you been?
Not me, Alex.
Yeah, okay.
Actually, I was in Ireland last week with my father, and I must say we were doing some speeches around Ireland, and I got quite choked up when you talked about your dad and then the 150-year-old woman that he's working with. That's incredible.
I start getting choked out too. I did. But well, thank you, and I'm really proud of him. As if it's not obvious, and I'm sure you are of your dad. Let's go to taxes right now before we get to the issue of what happened with the ULI and all that in the Congress on Wednesday night. What you see right now in Washington, Peter, does this surprise you? The numbers of people. I mean, I think even our reporter there on the ground underestimated by saying tens of thousands. It's looking like 100,000 people there.
Well, they had a pretty good turnout on those tea parties, Alex, and when you have media outlets and leading personalities pushing this, you get a good crowd. I have to go, though, to Mark McKinnon, who is President Bush's media advisor, worked for John McCain, a strong Republican advisor, and he said, a lot of these folks, and he called them nutballs, and he said, I'll quote it because it was, right. He said they're right-wing nutballs. And he says it's bad for the Republican Party. These freaks fill the void and define the party. Now, that's from a Republican. And I'm not saying that this is all freaks on the street down there, but I think his concern is that what is driving this is the hardcore right wing of the party, people who are not mainstream people, and it's going to hurt the Republican Party in the end. I don't know whether Joe agrees or not.
Yeah, I'm going to say, Joe, freaks and nutballs. Do you agree with that?
No, I don't. I think Mark McKinnon is a great guy. I don't particularly agree with that assessment. I think these are just American people. A lot of them may not be Republicans. They're just folks who want to make sure their voice is heard, and they've got a very strong opinion. They've got an opinion that obviously lots of Americans share with regards to taxes, and they're there to be heard. So this is their right as Americans to be heard, to say what they think, and to be heard. That's their right as Americans, and they're doing that. They're exercising their right.
Real quick,
I agree
Peter.
with that. I just say I totally agree with Joe on that. The right to protest is fine. I think where you get into trouble, and I think Joe would agree with this, is when it becomes uncivil. When you talk about Hitler as Obama. When you talk about Nazis. When you carry guns to rallies. These kinds of things are un-American. But the right to protest is definitely very American.
Okay, guys, I want to move to Joe Wilson right now on the "You Lie" shout out that during President Obama's speech on Wednesday night. To you first, Joe, on this. The House is talking about having a vote next week to admonish him for his conduct if he does not apologize. Do you think that is warranted? And let's just say that Nancy Pelosi at first, the day after on Thursday, had said, we're just going to let this go. It was an unfortunate incident, but let's focus on the bigger things. Well, now maybe not?
Well, the good thing is that Congressman Wilson apologized to the man that he said it to. He apologized to President Obama, and that's a good thing. And President Obama, I think, accepted the apology and said, it's over and done with. Now, if members of the House, if Democrats in the House want to make an issue out of this, want to prolong this and make a big deal out of this, this is not the first time these kinds of outbursts have happened. I mean, in 2005, when President Bush gave his State of the Union address, there was a huge outburst from Democrats who were very unhappy with what he had to say about Social Security. So these things happen from time to time. Generally speaking, they happen, and then they're just kind of over and done. But if the House wants to make a big issue out of this, I suppose they can. I wouldn't suggest that they do that, but obviously it's in their hands.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Peter? Do you think the fact that the president has accepted the apology, should the Democrats just let this one go?
Well, the problem is, Alex, that Wilson went on his website, said he's going to stick by his guns, and call for money, started raising money on the basis of this.
But the Democrats
and then everybody
more.
said, whoa, wait a minute, what is this all about? Why is it that if he apologized, did he even mean it? And also, they have a history in the House of when something happens like this, you speak, out of turn and outrageously, you go into the well of the House this, and you express your sorrow for doing it. And you know, this guy, I think he should just say, look, I'm sorry, this is not a civil behavior. I shouldn't have done this, and he should say it to fellow members, and the whole thing would be over if he did.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see if there's a mea culpa that way forthcoming.